Left of the box. But then here we have Jessa quote tweeting Melanie's tweet about the offer of RCMP support in the $1 million. Jessa says, "May this woman never hold office again. We won't search a landfill where we know the remains of Indigenous women lay, but RCMP have capacity for this? Not one living survivor has come forward and gone on record." What is this about? Yeah, huh. What is Jessa talking about here suddenly? Won't search a landfill? Well, from the agent NDN, it's like all eyes on Wab Kinew to make good on his promises. Wait. What promises? So, hi, Wab Kinew. Just FYI, this National Day of Action is coming up on March 8th. You've been premier for a while now, and didn't you say this would be a priority for you? Drumming with the kids the other day was cool, but could you look for these women, please? Huh? Yeah, so join us to hold the governments accountable to search the landfill for missing and murdered Indigenous women. March 8th, National Day of Action, search the landfill. A lot of you may not know, because this has been going on for quite some time. A killer has admitted to putting the bodies of at least 3 Indigenous women in a landfill in Winnipeg. And the RCMP and the government and the municipality have all refused to search this landfill, knowing full well the bodies of these women are in there. Wab Kinew recently was elected premier of Manitoba, and there was a lot of hope for him because he was the first First Nations premier of any province in Canada. Now, it's not just because he was of First Nations that, this should be a priority for him. He ran on it. He ran on making this a priority. In fact, I had a whole bunch of notes and everything together, and I was thinking that I was going to do some sort of TikTok about the issue of searching the landfill. I had tried reaching out to people who are at the base camp outside of it, who are protesting it, to try to get them to come on my show to talk about what was happening there. But then I was thinking, you know what? Now that Wab Kinew has been elected, well, he's promised. And he's NDP and he's First Nations, so he promised that he was going to make this a priority and finally give the families of these victims some peace. But they haven't. Protesters say they're fed up with NDP government inaction after promise to search landfills for slain women. Daughter of Morgan Harris, sick of words with no action. AMC Grand Chief done begging. You see, some of the things that just make this so tragic and horrific. Remember that submarine that kind of imploded and a bunch of rich people died in it? Not a bunch, just a few. Canada spent so much money looking for that sub, what was left of it anyway. And they had to cover an area that is incomprehensibly big. And they did that. And they spent all that money, put our resources into that. But in this one landfill, they won't search it. Oh, well, it's too dangerous. It's too this and that and the other thing. And yet I had a story that I was going to point out in this little video that I was planning on doing, which I might now still have to do, that there was a man in Toronto or something, and they did it. They found a body of somebody they knew was in there. It's not about money. It's not about resources. It's not about safety. It is that, and this is my theory, my speculation, they're not worried they won't find the 3 missing women. They're worried about how many more they will find. Because there's a lot of missing Indigenous women in this country, and their bodies are somewhere. And I strongly suspect that there are far more than 3 in that landfill. And then what would that mean to the police, to what their jobs have been, to who the possible other perpetrators of this violence was? Then they'd have to look into it. And then that landfill that would have to be shut down or moved so that it could become a big dig site so that they could find all these different bodies. Well, that would cost the city so much money, and they don't want to do that. And that is my speculation on it, that it's simply put racism and the fact that it could uncover so much more than they're prepared or wanting to deal with. Protesters demanding a search of a Winnipeg area landfill for the remains of 3 First Nations women directed their anger at new target Friday, Premier Kinew, who has yet to deliver on his campaign promise. Chants of Bring Out Wob rang across Manitoba's legislative grounds on International Women's Day. Around 300 people gathered to hear speeches after a round dance and march through downtown Winnipeg. I'm sick of words with no action, says Cambria Harris. It's believed the remains of her mother, Morgan Harris, are in the landfill. I'm sick of sitting in these rooms repeatedly with politicians and with politician to politician from premier to premier. And where are things gone? Nowhere. The progress stays the same, Harris says. Police said a year ago they believe the remains of Morgan Harris, 39, Mercedes Myron, 26, were taken to the Prairie Green landfill just north of Winnipeg in May 2022. Police have said they were victims of an alleged serial killer. There is a third woman that they also believe is in there. The families of the women have been fighting to have landfills searched ever since. I believe the third person is they don't know who she was. Just that he confessed to it. Friday's demonstrations was part of National Day of Action urging governments to begin scouring the landfills. Several events were held across the country. The Winnipeg event began with a round dance preceding a march to the steps of the Manitoba Legislative Building where Harris and others spoke. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kathy Merrick told the crowd she's done with pleading. We are going to quit begging. No more begging. Do the fucking work, she said to rounds of cheers. Harris said they voted Kinew's government into power last October because of his commitment to search the landfill, which the previous PC government rejected, then turned its opposition into an election issue. Yeah, they were literally just saying, we'll never do this. Like, it was sick. It was sick what they were doing. It's now time for him to hold up to his word, she said. Friday's demonstration was held on International Women's Day. I don't understand how these governments can celebrate our women and our diversity when our women are still laying in landfills in garbage dumps that remain grave sites to this day. Shame, Harris shouted. How are you okay with letting women lie underneath piles of trash? What message and what precedent does that send? Jordan Myron's sister of Mercedes Myron blasted Kinew for making promise after promise, but proving to be all talk, no action. Let's make some more noise and maybe he can hear us from in there, she told the crowd. A few hours later, the premier addressed reporters and again insisted his government would search the landfill, but he would not commit to a timeline.